Hello, Fadia. I'm looking at your work adjacent to the week 5 work, and I can see how much you've changed things in addition to centering the design. The weight of certain lines has been thickened, and overall, there's more variety in saturation and value. You know, one idea would be to compose some of the components or even just one of the component yourself and integrate that into this collage of found items. I did take the color picker to this, and your hue is consistent all the way through. Hello, Tiro. I think you've been successful in creating a piece that evokes an emotion, and there's a lot that's really lovely about the use of color in this piece. I compared it to your monochrome piece from week 5, and I noticed in that work there were more tones, which gave an unusual and interesting feel to the work. It's much different than this, but this in its own right is successful. I would say that the design, the layout, for instance, the integration of spirals, could be worked on a little more. Melissa, you've advanced this design to the point where it is quite lovely to look at, from starting with something rather simple last week. You know, with regard to the circles, I would be sure to make them either obviously not circles or give them a wide variety between ellipse and circle, or make them all exact. I do like seeing those in the foreground. When I look at the color wheel, I cannot fit the colors you've used into an exact triad, and that's something to check on. On the whole, this is a success. Hello, Crystalline. Looking at your artist statement, I appreciate that you were going for an analogous harmony, and this is a good example of that. Because of the alternation between reds, red, orange, and magenta, there's a certain pulsating quality that's working. I think it has something to do with desaturated colors too. There are some brownish colors from the red-orange family, I think. You know, a lot of people think to add a frame to polish up a final project, it's not always the best solution or complement to the work. Just an idea to consider using the design minus the fancy frame, or to fit it in perfectly. I noticed there's a small gap on the bottom where there's none on top right or left. Aaron, I can see how you've advanced this design through different versions in week 6 and also from week 5. Let's see, you know, this is a lovely and somewhat understated image. It is quite beautiful. I recommend for your portfolio that you increase the scale of the artwork itself and minimize the title, the color wheel, and your name there. Just another little idea has to do with something I see at bottom center. Notice how the grayish looking frond has a leaf that's underneath a reddish looking one. Now I'm looking at the branch that comes from the lower right corner and wondering whether the topmost leaves there could go over the reddish ones. Lauren, your work shows that you understand the harmonies and also that you've got a good handle on managing the software. One thought, it seems as though the corner of each of these L's is what's furthest forward in the layout. Now, what about colors? Well, I'd say because cyan's lightest, it's advancing most, and it might be that you want to put the cyan in the corner. Of course, the project's done and you don't need to revise it, but if you're thinking about making some minor adjustments for the sake of your portfolio, there's an idea. One last thought, I'm not sure about the use of the sharpening filter on a design like this. I like to use that on a photo and I see its purpose there. In this case, I think I'd work more with other options. Linda, for you and just about everybody, I made some notes on the final project in notes associated with a final grade. So everybody should look there too. I really like what you've come up with here, and it shows a lot of growth and change since week 5. A couple of things I'm thinking about are how the fish themselves seem to be a little fuzzy, and yet they overlap some of the leaves, for example. Get all the different rules of design working to the advantage of creating your imagery. What a lovely work, and I enjoy the addition of the animals here. I noticed the rabbit in the lower right, and also some shadowy shapes in the bottom portion. Those might well work in the sky area. A couple of things to consider. Maybe the javelina and the sun are quite centered horizontally in the composition. Also notice how the placement of the sun and the javelina seem to divide the composition into thirds vertically. I would deviate a little bit from that. Catherine, the longer I look at this, the more impressed I am by it. You know, I tend to be critical of use of stars, sort of easy ready-made shape to employ. However, for instance, in bottom center, I like the way those couple of stars are overlapped, how they're almost merging into one, how sometimes it seems like one star is being born from another. There's some nice effects here. You know, when I check this with a color picker, it seems to me that what you've got is a monochrome harmony rather than an analogous one. Katie, nice job at making things seem to protrude here. There are, 5 arms that seem to be extending toward us, and the color theory is helping there. I would suggest that you let nearer things be more textured and things in the distance be less textured to help uphold the illusion. Ashley, you have really proven yourself for the final project. This is lovely work. Now, a couple of things. The longer I look at this, the more I'm wondering about that black line where the horizon is. Could it be a darker shade of green, not quite so black, or even blue? And what about the sun's rays? Maybe they could extend clear across the sky and quit at the horizon. They could be behind the flowers. This would give an opportunity for more yellow to be active throughout the composition. Tina, I appreciate the changes in textures and arrangement since week 5 here. You know, I understand how an image that portrays outer space might benefit from the use of spare color, and in that way monochrome suits what you have. But you could even use a tetrad color harmony and tone the colors down for such a spare kind of appearance. Just keep that in mind. Of course, using a more complex color harmony is harder to do. Hi Ashley, I can see that you've advanced this design a great deal. You know, I do miss the color wheel. That should have been included with this. And when I start to count your hues, I can see that you've got more than 4, so this couldn't really be a tetrad. A couple of thoughts. I noticed you're using filters. I would urge you to use ones that are very obvious. What you've got in the 4 corners with the reds looks good. Otherwise, they're a little vague and they almost look like you have a resolution issue. Shauna, you have worked very hard and this design has come a long way. Because the turtles are randomly arranged, I wonder whether they should all be pointed straight up. Another thought is, some of them have red legs. Could those be scattered about more evenly, for example? Hi Tricia, I see you've got an all-new design, and actually I'm curious about how you put this together. I'd love to see the native file, the AI or the PSD. You could email that to me or post it in class and then send me an email letting me know it's there. Now let's take a look at the color harmony here. I can see in center of the sun there is an orange, and there's also a blue cyan color. So that means that the array of analogous colors you have is just about half of the color wheel, which I'd say is probably too many hues. When so many are involved, we lose the sense of the harmony.